And welcome back to Sullivan's Unheard Voices. I'm here with Dawn. Dawn, thank you very much for joining me. You and I met through karaoke. We kind of go to the
Yep.
same spot together. Um, and I wanted to talk to you, one, about your book, but two, I also wanted to talk to you about like your experience as somebody who's retired in 2024.
Okay.
Because I don't think people hear from people who are living on a fixed income. They hear all of these talking heads talking about what it feels like, but none of them have actually lived it. And I appreciate that you're living with it and still thriving.
Yeah.
So tell me about this book that you started.
Well, I wrote it. It was a short story I wrote in college
Uh-huh.
in my creative writing class. It was a 60-page short story that my professor told me that I should just fluff this out and fill this out and develop this more, and you'll have a novel. And so I took his advice and I turned it into a book. Um, it's 163 pages.
Uh-huh. What's it
Um,
about?
it's about a real place
Okay.
that has a lot of rumors and stories that surround it. It's about a place that exists. It's in Klamath Falls.
Okay.
It's called Old OIT, and it's the old campus for Oregon Institute of Technology. And they moved the campus back in the 40s, I believe it was. They moved the campus up by the hospital, and they abandoned the old campus. Well, there's just been a lot of stories and rumors that circulate about this building, how it's haunted, how there's like witches that have a coven that do rituals out there, that there's people buried out there that, um, they think that there was somebody that was living out there at one time. Well, I took all the rumors and the stories behind the building and thought, well, what if somebody moved to the area curious about the building, wanting to write a book about it, and became part of the book they were writing?
Wow, that's cool.
So that's what I did. I had somebody that moved up from Southern California that had heard about the building and some of the disappearances associated with it. And she moves to the area to write a book about it. She's already got a contract and a publisher that's interested in the storyline and all that stuff. And so all she's got to do is write it, research it, and write it. And this story takes place before the age of computers, before cell phones in the 80s.
So it's a period timepiece as well as based on a true story or true stories about the OIT building.
Yes.
Have you been to the old OIT
Yes.
building?
Yes, I've experienced it. It's creepy. It's just really creepy. It's just a big abandoned building out in the middle of the woods.
Wow.
Yeah, and on the way out there, it starts out kind of, the road is normal, but then it becomes overgrown and creepy as you go in to the area where the building is.
Is it still there today?
To this day.
Wow.
To this day. However, the people that own the property don't want people out there. They're not impressed by the ghost stories, and they want you to get scared somewhere else. Which I use that exact phraseology in the follow-up book, which is the original book is You're Too Late.
Okay.
And the follow-up book is called What Remains. And I use that exact phrase when there's an investigator that goes out to the property and she's told to get off the property and go get scared somewhere else.
I love it.
So I used that.
And how many books in the series?
3.
3?
Yeah, the third one is it's about my mother. I turned her into a private investigator and gave her paranormal abilities. And she solves all kinds of cold cases and other crimes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I call her Ginger Tass.
Ah!
Yeah.
Is there a meaning behind that?
Well, her name is Virginia Tassavegan was her maiden name.
Okay.
And all of her brothers went by Tass. And so she went by Ginger. And so it just made a
good, easy transition.
To Ginger Tass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's At It Again. That's the name of the third book.
And where are they available?
On Kindle.
On Kindle.
On Kindle.
Through Amazon?
Yes.
Okay. Nice. And then do you have other books besides those three?
No, I just had those three, and I don't really know that I have any more in me. I just
That's fair. What prompted you to write them?
Well, I'm a creative writing buff.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a writer. I've always written stories and poetry, and my my creative writing class in college really prompted me to kind of come up another level and to write this novel. Well, then it sat in my closet for 20 years. I didn't know what to do with it. And then I found out you could publish for free on Amazon Kindle. And so that's what I did. I took the opportunity to publish on Amazon Kindle. And I've sold a few copies.
That's awesome.
But I wouldn't mind selling a few more, of course.
And you were in the classroom at one point, right?
Yeah, I actually taught school for 4 years.
What was that like?
That was a blast.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
When was that? When was that?
In the 90s.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Way different today then.
Definitely a lot different.
Yeah. And then what'd you do after you taught?
I went back to restaurant work,
Okay.
which is what I did originally. I've been working in restaurants pretty much my whole life, since I was probably 14.
That's a thankless job.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. But I didn't want to do it my whole life. I worked I worked for the Oregon State Trooper magazine, selling missing child sponsorships. I did that for 5 years.
Nice.
So it got me out of the restaurant world. And then I've been a karaoke DJ off and on for 30 years. So that got me out of the restaurant business in a way.
So what was it like as a karaoke DJ 30 years ago?
Oh, it was really fun. It was, the equipment was rather primitive comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
Because we used CD players.
Okay.
And we had like the stack system.
Uh-huh.
And there was you had a record option where you could put a cassette in there and record yourself singing, which was kind of fun. We did that for a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it was all CD based.
Yeah, it was all CD based. There was no computerized anything. We had stacks of CDs that was on like a swivel stand. We had 4 of them that were loaded. We had about 8,000 CDs, about 8,000 songs, I should say.
Okay.
On about 100 CDs, but we had them cataloged.
Yeah.
So if somebody would give you a slip, and you would know exactly where to go to find the CD that you needed to get their song.
Now, were you responsible for buying all the CDs?
Not me. My boss did that.
Okay.
I was working for an outfit, West Coast Sing-A-Song, for Rick Anderson.
So if you were to compare the pay today versus the pay back then?
It's the same.
It's the same.
It's the same.
That is wild.
Yeah, I was making the same money working for a local company here in Salem that I was working in Portland 10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
And that surprises me in a way. Okay. I'm doing the numbers, right? And I'm thinking about like how many hours and how often. That's not a full-time gig.
It's not. You work about 4 hours a night, and you only work probably 3 or 4 days a week.
So you're on a good week, 20 hours.
That's on a good week. On a normal week, you're going to work about 12.
12 hours.
Yeah.
And no opportunity to do more than 12 because there's just not enough.
Not really. No.
Yeah. How is that sustainable?
It's really not. You have to have it has to be your second job.
And it has to be something you're really passionate in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, when I was working it was my only job, but I have a husband to support me.
Yeah.
So I didn't really need to work full time. I would like to have worked full time, but I didn't have to. Yeah.
And that's not a luxury a lot of people have.
No. Well, and I found out I could make more money on Social Security, so I retired.
You're not the first person who's told me that.
Yeah,
where you
well, they
made
couldn't
more
give me
money.
more than about 8 or 12 hours a week, and that's
Just not enough.
it really isn't enough.
That's not even enough to buy food.
It's barely enough to buy food, which is my responsibility. I buy the food for the household. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that puts a damper on things.
yeah,
But has life gotten a bit easier now that you're on Social
a
Security?
little bit, a little bit. I still have to watch what I spend, or whatever, but it's gotten a little bit easier. I don't have to stress so much about how much food costs. I still hate how much food costs, but I don't have to stress on it so hard.
It's not as stressful.
Right.
However, it's still way too expensive.
Way, way, way
Like,
too expensive.
uh, do you see a scenario where food prices come back down? Because
Gosh,
that's
I
where
hope so.
I hope so too, but I'm struggling to see it.
Well, our new president-elect has said that he's going to get a hold on the energy, and he said if he can get a handle on the energy, the prices will start coming down.
We shall see.
And
what
I
the
believe
future
that. I
holds.
believe that that's a viable pathway to success. Get the energy prices to come down. It makes sense that everything else will come down with it.
And the piece, though, in that regard, is how do you stop the multinational organizations that have been contributing to the price gouging?
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
I don't either. But that's where like the counter narrative is, right? I want what's best for our country. I'm reserving judgment. We'll see how the next 4 years go. However, that's a very unpopular opinion in my circles. And it's one of those strange things where we live in a society today where you can't openly talk about politics without pissing somebody off.
Or alienating somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a family member or a
Yeah.
friend or whatever. And I think that's sad.
Because I remember, like, at one point in my life, I was a public information officer for the Washington State Senate. And I supported a Democrat and 2 Republicans at the same time. That is something that will never happen again.
Right.
It was a unique experience in my life, and I was actually hopeful that it was going to continue. But there was a huge shift towards partisan divide, and now it's like we're all fighting each other over politics, and we're ignoring the people who need our help the most in our local communities.
Right. It's counterproductive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because, like, we can control our local community way more than you can control stuff on a national level.
Right.
And until we come together as a community and try to solve the problems that we're facing, I don't know we can change anything. Because it's just everybody's at each other's throats.
Yeah, everybody has to be right.
Yeah. And that's not a good place to be.
No.
Yeah. So what prompted you to decide to go towards retirement other than, was it just purely financial or was it other motivation factors as well?
It was pretty much financial.
Yeah.
It was financial. I realized I was old enough to retire because you can retire at 63 now. And I turned 64 over the summer, but I had retired before then. But I thought, well, I'm 63. Why not check it out?
Yeah.
So there was an 800 number to call. And I called them up and they asked me a few questions and voila, I was signed up. It was just that easy.
Now, do you get an increase when you reach a certain age or are you
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I would like to think so.
I don't know. So I'm just curious.
Yeah. So I'm making more money than I was before, but I wouldn't mind making a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it always surprises me just how little it is.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
No.
People are under the impression, I think, that if you get Social Security, that you're going to get this huge cash out paycheck every month.
Right, right.
And I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Well, my dad gets Social Security and he also has a pension.
Yeah.
So that really helps him out. He pulls a couple grand a month.
Okay.
Because he has a pension from a job that he had for years and years. And I don't have a pension to pull from. I just have Social Security. And I worked for minimum wage pretty much my whole life. I've never really made a ton of money. And so I'm not going to make a pile of money on Social Security, but I've managed to survive on very little
Yeah.
all my life. So I'm able to budget the Social Security to where it lasts me all month.
See, in a way, though, it pains me to hear you say that. And the reason it pains me to hear you say that is because you've had to spend your entire life living like paycheck to paycheck.
Always.
And just how stressful that is.
Right.
And just because I've been there before.
Uh-huh.
And I remember distinctly like getting a paycheck, not having enough to float all the bills, and then doing that dance that you have to do when you like, okay, which bill do I pay this month? Can I put this one off? Can I put that one off? Can I? All of those things.
Right.
And what do you do when you have an emergency, for crying out loud?
Oh, you're screwed.
Oh, that's wild. Did you ever have to encounter that?
Oh yeah, I've had car trouble, mouth pain,
Mm-hmm.
dentist visits in the middle of being broke. Luckily, dentists are really good. They know that your teeth are very important, and so they'll work on you. No matter what, as long as you have a payment plan. But if you have car trouble and you're paycheck to paycheck, you're ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this, unless you got a good friend who's a mechanic that can help you out.
And I've seen that happen time and time again with folks, where just one problem in your car is like $4,000 and you can't come up with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't just go buy a new car.
And it's all you have, and you have to get to work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
It is.
That's I shouldn't say choice. That's a predicament.
Yeah, it is.
That's not a choice. That's just life.
Yeah.
And you have to be I would imagine that also means you have to be creative in ways.
Oh, absolutely. You have to have a lot of friends that'll take you places, that'll come pick you up and take you to work. You have to make friends at work, so they'll come and pick you up and take you until you can get your car figured out. Depending on how long that takes. You don't want to inconvenience people too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also on the flip side, though, I would imagine with those same friends, if the situations were reversed, you would be the one taking people around.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
I have definitely been somebody's ride more than once. Oh yeah.
So what about like the medical piece, though? So
well, I have insurance through my husband's work.
Okay.
So I'm covered there. But next year, when I turn 65, I have to sign up for Medicare.
Okay.
It's required, apparently. It's mandatory that you sign up for Medicare when you turn 65. I don't know why. Yeah.
I'm letting that sink in for a minute. I did not know that.
Yeah, you have to sign up for Medicare when you turn 65.
They make you.
Yeah. And I can keep my husband's insurance as my primary.
Yeah.
But I still have to sign up for Medicare.
Okay.
For Medicare when I turn 65.
Wow.
Yeah. All kinds of weird rules.
So how old is your husband?
He's 55. He just turned 55.
So I'm curious do you have to sign up for Medicare even if you're the one that's working? So like when he reaches 65, if let's say he's not retired, I'm curious now, like.
I don't know how that would work if he was still employed at 65. I know he plans on working until he's probably 70.
Let me see.
I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to keep working until I was 70. I was just done.
Okay. So it says that you're mandatory for Medicare if you're on Social Security.
Okay, so if you're not on Social Security, it's not mandatory.
That's what it looks like.
All right.
And that's according to Musk's AI. So if it's wrong, blame AI.
There you go.
And they've been known to be wrong from time to time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they're not the end all.
Mm-hmm. So when you were a karaoke DJ then, and you're sort of coming up through all these changes. Uh, have you seen like a shift in the way that people behaved over the last decade or so?
No, not really. I think people have always behaved about the same. The same. Yeah.
So what about etiquette?
Etiquette?
Yeah.
Oh, there's always the buffoon that comes and tries to sing with you when you didn't invite him.
Hmm.
There's always that guy, and you just kind of let him. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You just let it happen, and you just sorry.
And do you have so like what about like song choices and things like that?
Well, the trends tend to go toward the popular music. So, like what's new,
Hmm.
a lot of the younger crowd, they want to sing the new stuff. And then the older crowd, they'll want to sing the older stuff, of course. Um, when I first started singing karaoke, I was doing 70s rock.
Okay.
And then I just learned other songs as I went along. And I do stuff from the 60s clear up to the 2017s. So,
Interesting. So and I guess what I mean in terms of like if you're a karaoke DJ, right, and you want to pick a song, is there things that people should consider before they pick a song?
we'll make sure it's something you know.
Okay.
Yeah, don't pick a song you don't know. If you only know the chorus, don't pick that song.
What other tips?
Well, that's about it.
Okay.
I mean, that's number one. Make sure you know the song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't eat the microphone. Don't put it clear up to your lips.
Yeah. Keep it kind of a
You
distance
want it,
away.
you want it a couple inches away from your lips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise you blast people out.
And if you have a really loud voice, it's okay to back up.
Yes. Some people have really powerful voices and they're not aware of how powerful their voices are.
I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that from time to time. I get a couple of folks in there who routinely flip me off because I'm too aggressive with my music choices.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, I would hate to have that undone. That's bad etiquette.
Right? Uh-huh. I don't care.
Well, it'd be like booing somebody because you don't like their song. That's rude.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because like I don't judge anybody's song choice. As a matter of
Right.
fact, I like when somebody chooses something a little out of the ordinary. And
I
you're
do
like,
too.
what is this?
Right? Well, like Ice B does that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he picks songs that I've never heard of. Yeah.
And what got you into like that as a profession to begin with? Was
Oh,
there
it
like
was just fun, and I like to sing. I've always liked to sing. I've been in choir and band and involved in music my whole life.
that's
And
awesome.
my sister dragged me out to the Vista House up here in Salem one night
Uh-huh.
and made me do karaoke with her, and I was hooked.
I
I sang two songs. I sang Dream On by Aerosmith, and I sang Crazy for You by Madonna, and I was hooked. I went back to home to Medford and started looking for the places that did karaoke. And then I was like 7 nights a week. I was every night I had to be out singing. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I was completely hooked. It was my new addiction.
And
Yeah.
you still go out kind of frequently now, right?
Yeah, I still got about 4 nights a week.
That's a lot.
It is.
How do you like maintain your voice?
Oh, you just get used to it.
Okay.
Yeah, you get used to it. And if you start to feel it crack, you just pick a song that's a little bit in a lower register so it doesn't hurt you.
That's a good point. Something that somebody always told me is like, Luke, you can always change the key.
Yeah, you can.
I have no idea what that means.
Oh, well, you can bring the key down you can bring it down a couple of keys,
Yeah.
which is an easier range. And all you do is you just lower your voice to accommodate the music, and you can hear the music, you can hear the difference, and you can just change your voice.
I don't think I know how to do that.
Well, it's kind of a natural thing. You should try it. Try it and see. It's a natural thing. Try a song that's too high for you and bring it down about 2 or 3 keys, and then see if you can follow the new tone.
That's going to be interesting. That's going to be an interesting experiment.
Yeah.
I will do that later for sure.
Yeah, give it a try.
Interesting. And how long have you been in Oregon?
My whole life.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was born in Portland. Grew up in Salem, South Salem, Southeast Salem. I lived in Klamath County for 10 years. I've lived in Medford for 14 years the first time and 6 years the second time.
And now you're back in Salem?
Now I'm back in Salem, come full circle.
How much has changed?
Quite a bit has changed, actually.
Yeah.
So like I said, I grew up in Southeast Salem,
Mm-hmm.
up on Scenic View Drive. The Chinese restaurant that was down the hill from our house it's still a Chinese restaurant, but it's called something else. And there was a corner where there was a Dairy Queen, Bob's 19-cent hamburgers, and a McDonald's over where Browning and Commercial Street are.
Okay.
But they're not all there anymore. I think the Dairy Queen's the only thing still there.
Wow.
Yeah. But those were all, there was a Piggly Wiggly store that was right there in that parking lot.
I thought they were on the East Coast.
No,
They were out here too.
It was in the 60s. We had a Piggly Wiggly store. It was just right down the hill from our house.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's a lot that's changed. Quite a bit, actually.
Do you still find it as safe as it used to be?
Oh, probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't find the world in general is as safe as it used to be.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It can be a crazy place. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why do you feel that? Do you have an idea as to why? Or how many
I think
suspicions?
people are changing.
Yeah.
I just think people are changing.
I think people are getting away from community and connection and
They're getting
really,
away with more stuff too.
How so?
Well, like with the participation awards, where you don't have to work so hard to get an award, where you're going to get one no matter what. You're not punished. There are no consequences. You grow up with that, then you're going to, as an adult, you're not going to be a good person.
Yeah. And it's very individualistic now.
Yeah.
Like everything's about you, me.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like that sense of community. Like it's very strange.
It is. And the pandemic really brought that on.
Yeah.
Really brought out the nasty in people. I don't understand what happened with the pandemic. And like, people were cooped up for 4 months and they came out just horrible.
Well, their lives were taken from them.
Well, yeah, but everybody's lives were taken from them.
Yes, but even more so.
Yeah. I was mildly irritated by the lockdown, but I didn't come out crappy over it.
and I would share your sentiments, but I was lucky to have kept my job. And
yeah.
I knew too many people.
And I worked in a bookstore at the time. And we were an essential service, and we stayed open through the whole pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know so many people who were not so fortunate.
Right.
And I know so many people that had businesses that were forced to shut down.
Exactly. And then
lose everything.
And never recovered.
They'll never recover.
Never recover.
Never. And my question has always been, why don't we bail them out? You know,
right.
Like we bail out the banks, we bail out all these other things, we do all this other stuff. Like, where's the resources for the ma and pa, single owner, corporation, small business that had to shut because of COVID?
Right. Well, they did have some relief, but I don't think it lasted. I don't think it stretched far enough to make it worth it.
No, not on a permanent basis.
No.
And even with those personal, whatever the PPE loan or whatever it was,
yeah,
it was only enough to cover a short time.
Right.
It's not like it was enough to cover months and months and months that they were
Right.
forced to like lock down. And like, I think of so many restaurants, like I worked
Well,
for.
even now, restaurants are closing.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. So I used to work at the Washington Restaurant Association, and we used to have what is called a consulting network. And when I talked to the folks from the consulting network, there were three things about restaurants that I did not know. One, the closure rate of every single restaurant is about 60%. So 60% of all restaurants fail.
Sure.
If given enough time.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, it's kind of a bad investment. And so what he would tell people, if you want to start a business, you have to be passionate about restaurants. If you're not a passionate person about the restaurant, it's not going to work, because
No.
I can think of 100 different businesses that I can point you in will make you money. Restaurants, tight margins, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with food, you're dealing with there's so much to being in a restaurant business that people have no idea.
Right.
That it's just an impossibility. And that's why so many restaurants close, is because it's just not a sustainable industry unless you know something that others don't, or you have something that others don't.
Right. Right.
Never thought I'd bring up my restaurant association days, but hey. And so since we've come out of that pandemic, though, I think we're starting to get back to that, though. Very slowly, but I'm starting to see signs of life.
Yeah.
Where I didn't see signs of life before.
Huh.
I'm seeing more people at the music venues.
Okay.
I'm seeing more music venues and more opportunities for music. I'm seeing community groups, support groups,
right.
Meetup groups, all of those things that are starting to happen again,
right.
where people have the opportunity to meet with other people and actually just have that sense of community. Because I think it's important. And for a lot of ways, I feel like the little club that we have on Friday nights is a support group in a way.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you noticed, but everybody that's sort of in our circle, we're kind of having similar circumstances. We have very similar stories, very similar backgrounds.
Right.
And we're all dealing with stuff in this society that we were not expecting. Yeah. And so it's nice to have that safe space.
Right.
Where you can go and just sing and hang out and just laugh. Because it's rare these days.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. How'd you end up at the Silver?
How'd I end up there?
Yeah.
It's close to my house.
That's fair.
It's like within a mile of my house. Yeah.
Because I ended up there just purely by accident.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like I was looking for a place with karaoke, and I was supposed to go to a different place, but I got lost. And as I was driving, because I was brand new to Salem, I was driving by and I was like, I think I remember this place as having karaoke. And I'll never forget, as I talked to Amy about this too, it was like the first time I went there, I was way overdressed.
Oh.
I was like, whoa, I need to,
tone it down.
Tone it down a bit. This is a t-shirt and jeans kind of place.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I was working at the Hollywood Tavern, and I started working Thursday nights at the Silver Inn just before I retired. But I had been going to the Silver Inn like Friday nights for a while, since I moved to, I think my nephew took me there, and that's what prompted me to keep going there, because I went there with my nephew a couple of times.
Was Amy still the KJ when you went there the first time?
No, she was KJ and somewhere else. It was Ariel.
Okay.
Was the KJ.
Interesting. I don't know if I know that person.
No, Amy came and took over a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a year ago.
It's about that. Would be at least a year and a half, because that's how long I've been going there.
Okay. Yeah.
At least a year and a half. Boy,
Right.
time flies.
It really does.
God,
Yeah,
sometimes
we're already almost 25 years into this century. Where did that go?
I don't know. I
I
blinked.
know.
And there it
I'm
was.
telling you.
I just blinked. And it was gone. Kaiser
sure.
Soze. Mm-hmm. He's gone.
It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get it back.
So do you practice at home before you go out, or just kind of
I just wing it.
just wing it?
Yeah. If there's some songs, if I haven't heard them for a while, I'll bring them up on YouTube and listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's like, oh, okay, I got it.
That's a talent. I have to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hate it.
I used to practice more.
Yeah.
Like back in the 90s when I was just starting karaoke, I would practice more. But I don't feel the need to practice again.
Yeah, I'm still sort of, I don't know if feeling out's the right word, but I'm still sort of discovering where my voice fits.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of weird.
Well, you pick songs that match your voice range, which is pretty key. It's right up there with pick a song you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, pick a song that's in your range.
But at the same time, like, I would love to venture out.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It is. It is. Well, there's certain songs that I don't sing anymore because I don't have that range anymore. There's a whole list of songs that I don't sing anymore.
Did something happen to sort of take your range away?
I think probably part of it is age.
Okay.
And then part of it is I had neck surgery in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And my upper range just went away after that. So I don't know if he nicked the vocal cord or what, or if they fixed 3 vertebrae in my neck. So I don't know if fixing the vertebrae changed the pitch of my voice or what. But after that surgery, I noticed that my upper register is gone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did the surgery actually help?
Oh, tons.
Okay.
Tons.
I've always been curious.
Oh yeah, tons.
What was going on beforehand?
Well, I had 3 vertebrae that were messed up, that were out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And I had bone spurs in my neck from a car accident that I was in.
Ow.
Yeah. And so they just went in and they replaced C4, C5, and C6.
Okay. They replaced and not fused?
They replaced them.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, they could have taken bone out of my hip.
Yeah.
And replaced it, but that would have been a longer recovery time. So they just put synthetic vertebrae in there.
And no problems ever since? That's awesome.
Took me about a year. I couldn't make a fist with my right hand for about a year, which was weird.
Okay.
But now I can make a good fist.
So for a good year, you couldn't make a fist at all?
No, I couldn't. I had to make it happen.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
were you like constantly sort of like trying to rehab it and sort of?
Yeah, once I found out I couldn't make one, I tried to do it.
What was that like when you found out?
That was just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's different.
Yeah.
I wonder how long that's going to last, But there's all kinds of things. When you mess with your neck, there's all kinds of nerves and tendons and arteries and all kinds of stuff in your neck. So it's a pretty touchy place.
I was supposed to get back surgery at one point, and I chose not to. And I chose to do acupuncture instead.
Okay.
And saved my life,
Okay.
I would have to say.
Yeah, I've not had people have good outcomes from back surgeries.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, especially fused. I know a lot of people who had their spines fused instead of replaced.
My girlfriend, my best friend down in Medford, she's got 2 metal rods in her back.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's gotta suck when it's cold.
Yeah, she goes through it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's horrible. Yeah, for me, I was the military hurt my back pretty bad. And I was in pretty bad shape when I got out of the military. And I was talking to the VA about surgery. And then I was married at the time, and the missus said I should look into acupuncture. And I pushed back at first. But then she made a good point. What else are you doing? You're waiting 6 months to a year before you can actually get the surgery anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Yeah, it took me a year before I got my neck surgery approved and got it out of the way.
Which is wild to me that we're in a state of affairs that it takes a year to get approval for a surgery to help people function normally.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of a world do we live in where the insurance companies have a choice into whether or not we're in pain?
Isn't that crazy?
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It makes no sense to me. And I really hate that person was killed. At the same time, I'm not surprised by the aftermath of the CEO of United Health.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they caught the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got him under arrest.
And when I start to see all the stories of all the people who have been negatively impacted or even killed or died because of a denial of their healthcare claim because of that company.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me.
Yeah.
Like how you can have a person who dictates whether or not a life-saving procedure is too expensive.
I don't know how they can actually do that. If you're paying for insurance, they should cover whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to me.
Straight up makes sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they would deny you anything if you're paying your premiums. They should cover you.
That should be a simplistic thing, too.
Yeah.
Simplistic.
But it's not.
But it's not. Because they are beholden to shareholders. Like, it used to be that companies were beholden to their customers and that organizations and entities had a responsibility towards keeping their customers happy and satisfied and getting their needs met. Now the customers are second or even third tier compared to their fiduciary responsibility to make profit for these companies.
That's right. That's sad.
At the expense of people's health and well-being.
Yep.
And it's appalling to me just how backwards that is. Because it doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
Like, there should be no reason for us to have red dye 40 in any of our foods.
It's not. They don't use it in Europe.
Right. Because it's bad for you.
Yeah, we have the worst health problems in the world, and we have the worst food in the world.
Don't get me started on food.
No.
Oh, like ultra-processed seed oils in particular.
Canola.
Duh.
Do not use canola oil.
No, don't.
It's highly toxic to humans.
Yes. And they started putting cyanide in freaking energy drinks.
Really?
Yeah, so if you look at Monster now.
I've never drank those things.
Yeah, so if you look at Monster now, you look at Red Bull, you look at all these, they have this vitamin B in there. But it's spelled out cyan, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's a cyanide derivative.
Wow.
So they've figured out if they have a derivative from cyanide that stops the crash at the end of the caffeine hit. So instead of doing something responsible and just taking this caffeine or whatever, they put this chemical in there because it's safe at those levels. But how many people are having 5 or 6 energy drinks in a day?
A lot.
So how harmful is cyanide 5 times a day versus...
Well, it's poisonous. Yeah. It's going to kill you.
And so it's like, when did that change? And like, when did they start putting canola oil in chicken broth? It's there now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's chicken broth.
Yeah, why do you need canola oil in chicken broth?
Right.
Or oil at all.
Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those things, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback for this, but food is so important. And part of the reason I gained all of my weight back, because I lost about 50 or 60 pounds when I first got here to Salem.
Uh-huh.
I changed my diet. I was pretty much doing a carnivore diet, supplementing with like vegetables and fruits, and sort of having that sort of a diet with exercise. I dropped all the weight. Well, with food costs increased in that time, I can't afford that diet anymore. The state don't pay me enough for that.
Right.
And so because I've had to switch back to using more processed foods, freaking fat again.
The weight comes back.
Yeah. And I would love to be able to sustain a carnivore diet, but now that it's $25 a pound, it's like you can't do it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so you have to resort to the unhealthy foods that we shouldn't be eating. I mean, heck, they banned macaroni and cheese in Europe because it's not a food.
Okay.
Kraft macaroni and cheese is banned.
Well, Kraft macaroni and cheese is garbage. My mother used to make homemade macaroni and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And she would boil the elbow macaroni and melt the cheese and put it in there, and it was real cheese and real macaroni. But yeah, Kraft macaroni and cheese is garbage.
It's not. It's just, ugh.
It's just crap. Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't understand why we still have this stuff on our shelves. I don't understand.
Because people keep buying it.
Well, it's because that's all they can afford.
That's right.
Because we,
what, 49 cents for a box of macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if that's all you can afford, then that's what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it used to be like I would just have hamburger meat or hamburger, and now I have hamburger helper because, I need the extra calories still, and it's so bad for me. I know that, but until finances are situated, it is what it is. And I don't think, I'm surprised that that's not something that's talked about more, how important food is.
Oh, they probably talk about it on NPR.
I don't think they do.
You don't think they do?
No.
Huh.
No, I spend a lot of time monitoring the news and all of that stuff. And one of the things that they don't really ever talk about is nutrition.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have thought that would be a place where they would have that venue.
Well, they still, they're still using the old food pyramid, for crying out loud.
Okay.
So the food pyramid says that your foundational piece, and let me look this up because I think it's... I know that people listening can't hear that, but there is a very nice, what is that, flute?
It is a flute.
A company.
Yeah.
So if you look at even the food pyramid today, it says the biggest foundational of your food pyramid is bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, and you're supposed to get 10 servings of that a day.
No way.
3 servings or 5 servings of vegetables, 2 to 3 milk, and fats, oils, and sweets used sparingly.
You'd weigh 300 pounds if you eat like that.
2 or 3 servings of meat, 2 to 4 servings of fruits. Like, that's what they still say is the food pyramid.
That's crazy.
Like, why would you have grain? But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's no wonder, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've been at this for almost an hour. So I do want to circle back to the book piece.
Okay.
What's the title?
It's called You're Too Late. By Dawn Gunn. Gunn.
2 N's.
2 N's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you have to look it up that way. You have to look it up. You have to look it up on Amazon because there's several titles that are You're Too Late.
Yeah.
So you have to put You're Too Late by Dawn Gunn, and then you can find it that way. Then the other book is called What Remains, which is the sequel to You're Too Late, which ties up all the loose ends, tells you a little bit about the antagonist, and how they round up and tie up all the loose ends and end that segment of the story. And then Ginger Tasses at It Again is a continuation of What Remains. The first part of it is a continuation of What Remains. And then the rest of it is the case of the missing school teacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Dawn, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.